Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock. Welcome to Giant TV. This is my channel where I have incredible people on. I'm the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. We're helping others to grow and nurture their businesses. And just fired up beyond belief to have Dr. Heidi Giusto on. Heidi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and I can say I'm excited because even though this is the first time having you on, we were talking offline. You've got some incredible stuff going on and just awesome. So I want to get into this and talk about, first of all, you're a communications consultant. I know broad term, but
Yep.
refine that for us. And then I want to get into your toolkit, which you brought up, because that sounds fascinating.
Sure. So I'm a communications consultant, and I got into founding my company almost a dozen years ago, from the perspective of a writing consultant. So
Right.
I did my graduate studies at Duke University,
I've heard of it.
and
I've heard of Duke.
have you heard of it? A couple people
A little
have.
bit, a little bit.
So I I was working at the writing studio because, grad student, you need money. And
Yeah.
I found that I really loved working with writers. So I had the very awkward realization that, 4 years into a 7, 8 year program, and after I'd already earned a bachelor's and master's in history, I didn't want to be a history professor anymore. So I finished the degree, but I did that. And as I was doing that, I was refining my idea for a communications consulting firm. Day in and day out, I write, I edit, and I coach people. So that might be on books. So sometimes I'm always having a book or two in the works as a developmental editor or ghostwriter. And my area of focus there is business leadership and self-help. I've dabbled
Oh,
in fiction, but I like to stick with the nonfiction and that
yeah.
the business section. Um, and then also just day in and day out, I help people with their careers. So in the whole idea is I help you communicate when it matters most. So whether that's
Mhm.
a book, getting your idea out into the world, or that's a job. Like, what's your value proposition on a resume? So, like, those
Yeah.
very tactical documents that should also be strategic. So, resumes, CVs, depending on the person's background and what they're looking for, cover letters,
Hmm.
LinkedIn, helping people learn how to optimize the use of LinkedIn and have a stronger profile, all the way through interview prep and salary negotiation. So I do a
Wow.
lot of one-on-one consulting that way, and teaching it at in a corporate setting if there's a program, say, for leadership development and helping people progress in their careers and letting them equipping them with the tools to effectively communicate their value. I'll come in and
Yep.
do workshops and training at university programs. I will do that
Hmm.
as well. And the toolkit that you mentioned is the context for that. There's been a lot of layoffs recently, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
been a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of instability, and I had a surge in demand, and I wanted to put something together that would really help be able to help people like get help immediately. So it's
So
a
wait, surge in
career.
demand to help get a job?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because of
Because
the
there's been,
layoffs.
because of the
Yep.
layoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's called the Career Accelerator Toolkit: 4 steps to boost your career and land your next job faster. And it's an on demand program. It's a
Oh,
combination of videos, handouts, like workbooks like these. I
yeah.
got this substantial documents with it. And then there's a monthly group meeting with me as well.
Live with you monthly.
Live. Yeah. Yeah. You log into my Zoom link that I send you, and I teach on a topic for about 10 minutes, and then I open it up for Q&A. So you could tell I'm very um, strategic, tactical, helping people
Yeah.
get where they want to go, but also it's education based. I'm an educator at heart. And
Well, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, well, okay. So I want to ask you, I want to dive into a couple things you said there
Yeah.
because it's very interesting. First of all, I just want to ask you, so the resume thing, is curious to me. I haven't had to send out a resume, in many, many years, but
Yeah.
it seems to me, there's all these sites online now to find a
Mhm.
job, and people are throwing resumes out there. That seems like just problematic to me. Just I mean, are there besides
Yeah.
sending a resume in where you're one of like 10,000 people, what's the differentiator there of just doing that? That can't land you a good job, can it?
It all depends. So, what I teach people is having really strong application documents is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is networking and really having a strong network so that when you are looking, you know people who want to help you and
Yep.
say, "Hey, let me know when you're applying. I'll keep an eye out." Right? So there's that part, but also I would not recommend only applying and not doing
Yeah.
networking, but
Yeah.
if you have a well-crafted resume that is mindful of applicant or the writing process during that, you've been mindful of applicant tracking systems and how they parse for words and how the formatting matters. So there's all these templates online that don't work well with the tracking system.
What's the
Um,
tracking system? I mean, that's an algorithm with
It's
the
software. Yeah, it's software that when if I'm listing a job, and I have to admit I've never done this firsthand because I'm self-employed, but
yes.
you list a job and you decide what keywords you're having the system parse for to
Oh,
then help rank the most relevant documents. So those kind
okay.
of get pushed to the top, then a person starts looking at them, they decide who do they want to contact. So we need to think about things like what keywords do we want in here? And this is the part where it's really easy to have a resume that doesn't look so or it doesn't work so well is if you go the route that I call keyword vomit. You just put all the keywords in, but then a person reads it and says, "Great, all the buzzwords are here, but what did they actually do? How
Yeah.
are they different from everybody else?" So, really
Mhm.
understanding your value proposition, what some people in business would call your unique selling proposition or whatever you want to call it, but what sets you apart from everybody else who's also applying. If you get that in there and you're applying, you have the right strategy, you're applying for roles you're actually qualified for,
Okay,
right?
so when you say
That
what sets
helps.
you, so when you say what
Mhm.
sets you apart, that's in a business environment or on the human side of things, or both?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's, some people, and you've been in business long enough to know, right? Some people are your turnaround specialists. Some,
Hmm.
they come in, they're known for turning around the organization. That's their role. Some people are, whatever it is, the superhuman problem solvers, like having the self-awareness to be able to say, this is what like I'm known for. This is my strength.
Yeah.
And here is evidence where I have done it. Right?
Got to back it up. Got to back it up.
Yes, you got to back it up.
Well, yeah, okay. That's interesting because I hear about all these sites, Indeed, and people are like, all right, there's
Yeah.
10,000 people applying for one job, but so the toolkit. Um, so who is appropriate for that
Mhm.
toolkit? Is it broad for a lot of people, or is it designed for specific people looking to get this done?
In the most broadest sense, it is professionals in the North American context. And I say that because there are different cultural distinctions depending on what country you're in, just even, and I won't geek out on you here, but like what we call a CV here is a different document than what they call a CV in the UK.
Oh,
Um, and what they call the CV is our resume. And just like there are just some basic differences, and in some countries you still put whether you're married or not and your birth date. And so there are different cultural
hmm.
conventions. But no, this is designed for someone, the person I had in mind was someone who maybe has not had to update their resume in a while and they feel an urgency. They want to get started right away. And not just the resume, I should say, just I want to be ready, whether that is
Yeah.
because they heard a layoff is coming or they got laid off. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have a LinkedIn profile, but I'm on there just because I know I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a step on LinkedIn, an actionable step, a little video of me introducing the of LinkedIn key considerations, and then resources to help a person make LinkedIn work for them.
Hmm.
Resources on these are the things you need to think about with your resume, like these tracking systems. Like you're like, wait a second, back up. What are you talking about? I explain that. And then there's things like strong verb, a list of strong verbs categorized by what skill you want to emphasize. There's a 46-page interview prep and salary negotiation workbook with scripts. A lot of people are like,
Oh,
some people have never negotiated salary and they need just some ideas. How do I
good
go
point.
about
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really meant for someone who um, there has to be an internal motivation of like, I'm going to help myself, right? There's the
Yes.
whole lead a horse to water, but can't make them drink thing. So they
Yeah.
want to help themselves and they want to get started right now.
Yeah. And is that any seniority level for the toolkit?
It it would work for any seniority level. From experience, I've learned that the people who are at the C-suite tend to prefer to work one-on-one, but it is designed because here is the thing. Whether you're if I look back at my old self when I was a high school and college student and I had to write a resume,
Oh,
and I worked in a factory. I worked midnights for years in a factory while I was going to school.
I saw that on your profile. That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And right now, if I'm writing a resume for myself, the principles that I would be teaching myself are the same. We want an accomplishment based resume.
Mhm.
You need to state, like, you need to have self awareness of what makes you stand out among everybody else. We need metrics, we need concrete achievements. These things are the same, even if people, generally speaking, they're
Yeah.
the same. It just the application looks a little different, but I have samples. So there's an entry level sample. There's a sales leader sample. There's several samples from people with PhDs like myself, because those transitions can be tough when you're like, I've always had a CV and now I need a resume. What does
Yeah.
that look like? So there
Yeah.
are samples to guide people from at all different levels and from all different fields.
Well, as I've gotten to know you here, and I'm gathering that your toolkit is very well put together and very well organized. I'm getting that
So I've
idea.
been told. So I've been told, yes, because I had beta testers. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I just see no stone is left unturned with that toolkit. No, that's great. And oh, by the way, I'm going to tell people wherever they're watching this that access to your toolkit. We'll put that around this video so they can
Perfect.
go check it out. Yeah, and then Heidi, when you're so one thing you do is you said you love speaking and
Yeah.
like what does that presentation look like? Are you going live? Is it virtual when you're speaking? And is it like a couple hours? Is it an all day thing? I'd love to hear more about
It,
that.
yeah, thanks for asking. It depends. So I do webinars and I go in person. Recently I was in Boston doing a couple days of workshops for
Okay.
an organization up there. Um, and those were a couple hours each. One was on writing a compelling resume, another was on interview prep, another's on um, strong use of LinkedIn. Then there's sometimes where it's webinars and it might be a 4 hour session all in once, which of course I give breaks. And, and then sometimes it's broken up over like I did one not too long ago where it was once a week for 3 weeks, an
Oh,
hour and a half each time.
hmm.
People log in. and it was part one, part two, and then additional like steps to help you implement this and open Q&A. So it's really, I have on my website that I think cookie cutters should stay in the kitchen. So every time I do a talk, it isn't like, oh, this is the talk that I give. I talk with whoever's in charge to say, what are your needs? And
Yeah.
then I make sure I customize the presentation or workshop to whatever they need.
It sounds wonderful. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing? Is it working with
Ooh,
people? What what do you love?
wow. I don't know if anyone's asked me that before. I think that um, I don't take it for granted that people trust me to help them navigate two of the things that I think are two of the most important things in life, which is um, like happiness, workplace satisfaction, and financial stability, because those are tied,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it is an honor and a privilege to be able to play a small part in helping people navigate that, sometimes during really tricky and uncertain times. Not always, but sometimes.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's uncertainty. Um, so I really like being in people's corner, as I put it, and I feel uh, very satisfied that that's what I get to do. I'm in people's corner. I'm a helper to my core, and I think that if I had to boil it down to one thing, I think it's probably that.
Oh, that's great. And interesting is I imagine that it can be somewhat even emotional if people are out of a job and they can't afford to be out of a job. I mean, you've got to have the personality and the empathy to probably deal with that too, right?
I guess so. I mean, frankly, so beforehand we were joking about I'm a nerd. I'm a geek and I'm an assessment geek. And I did an assessment one time and it showed my empathy is not very high. I'm very much like, okay, suck it up, buttercup, do your job. Like, okay, you're not feeling good. Have a good day at work, right? Like I'm just because I guess I tend to be that way with myself. Um, so I never thought of myself as someone is like highly empathic, but I have had people really, if that's
Gotta be,
ever come up,
gotta be.
people challenge me on that. They're like, no, Heidi, you are like to your
Yeah,
core.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I think I'm able to put myself in another person's shoes and I'm a good listener. So I can hear and
right.
pause when I'm like, oh, you just said you lost your manuscript and you word is not cooperating and your entire manuscript is gone. Oh, are you okay? Right? Like I'm able
Yeah,
to like, oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah. So
Yeah. Well, and just for the record, too, I want everyone to know I did not say Heidi is a nerd. She has that up on her site.
I do.
So
I
don't
own
judge
it.
me.
I own it. I own it. It's okay.
No, well, yeah. Well, and what you said about the fact that you're a good listener and can repeat those listening skills, it's such a lost art today. People don't really listen very well. Everyone's just yapping at each other. So the fact that you're a good listener, I think says a lot about your empathy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
listen. I write and edit for a living. I also do a lot of listening because
yeah.
you
You have
have
to.
to
You have to.
work with people and hear them, like really hear them to
Yeah.
be able to help capture what they're trying to say and what they might know about themselves, but not be able to articulate.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And well, I just want to tell everybody that again, Heidi's information is going to be around this. I highly suggest you get connected to her. I was Heidi looking at your content on LinkedIn. You got some great stuff there. Get connected with Heidi. You won't regret it. Heidi, you and I could talk forever. I really love it. But thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me and for the opportunity. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Right. Thanks. I know we'll talk again.
Yep.